At my cousin Marina's rehearsal dinner, she lifted her glass, beamed as if she were toasting, and remarked, "Every family has its failure. Ours is her." She pointed directly at me. Laughter erupted around the table. I scanned the faces. Her bridesmaids stifled giggles behind their champagne flutes, and her fiancé Todd smirked as if it were just harmless fun. Even my mother wore a tight smile, eager to avoid seeming uptight by not joining in. I maintained a stoic expression. That was the key. Don't flinch. Don't give them the satisfaction. I lifted my wine glass, took a sip, and made it seem like the remark rolled off my back. Inside, it felt like a punch to the gut. I wasn't shocked, though. Marina had been pulling these stunts for years, poking fun at me, disguising it as teasing, and always hiding behind a crowd that let her off the hook. Since childhood, I was the odd one out. The one who skipped college, didn't wear pastels at Easter, and didn't smile widely in pictures. I enlisted in the army rather than join her sorority. They didn't care when I returned home last year. No welcome sign, no phone call, not even a text. It felt like my quiet failure made them all feel better about themselves, as if being different was something to be ashamed of. And tonight, I was just a prop in Marina's perfect little event, another punchline tossed out between courses. But then, the front door swung open. Heavy wooden doors creaked behind us. At first, no one glanced. Over. But I heard it. The sound of boots on tile, metal clinking, someone walking with purpose. The room hushed enough for a few heads to turn. A man in uniform entered, dressed in full army blues, polished shoes, clean-cut, squared shoulders, a folder neatly tucked under his arm. He scanned the room, then approached the head table where Marina and Todd sat beneath strings of fairy lights. I thought he might be here for me. I stood up slightly. He didn't even acknowledge me. He reached the microphone, tapped it once, and spoke in a firm, professional tone. "Apologies for the interruption. Is the bride present?" The room fell silent. Marina froze. Yes, that's me," she replied. The man nodded. "Miss Marina Vale, we need to speak with you regarding your other marriage." At first, no one reacted, as if the words didn't compute, like our ears hadn't caught up with what we were hearing. Then, the meaning sank in. I saw Marina's eyes widen. Todd slowly turned toward her. "You're what?" he asked. Marina's mouth opened, but no sound emerged. She looked pale, as if her makeup couldn't hide the flush creeping up her neck. The officer turned to Todd. "She is still legally married to Corporal James Ridley. We have documentation on file. That marriage has not been annulled or legally dissolved." Forks hit plates. Someone gasped. Chairs shifted. The sound of breath being held enveloped the room. In that moment, I didn't have to say a word. I didn't need to defend myself or clarify who I was, why I'd been absent, or why I didn't wear heels, makeup, or take photos in matching satin robes with 10 other bridesmaids. I simply sat down, placed my glass on the table, and watched, as the woman who had branded me the family failure for years had to explain herself. I hadn't intended to attend Marina's wedding, neither the rehearsal nor the ceremony. I deleted the invitation when it first arrived. I didn't need another reminder of my status in this family, but then my younger brother Jace called. "You should come," he urged. "You've been gone for years. Just show your face, eat the free food, and go home." He made it sound simple, as though showing up wouldn't cost me anything, but I knew what I'd be stepping into. My cousin Marina's wedding wasn't a family affair. It would be a performance, and I was cast in a role I hadn't chosen. I returned from my last deployment 10 months ago. I served 5 years in the Army, 2 tours. The kind of time that reshapes your understanding of noise, sleep, hunger, and what it means to be okay. But to my family, I wasn't a soldier. I was the girl who didn't finish college, the one who ran off instead of settling down, the one who returned home quiet, plain, a bit too serious for their liking. I moved into a small apartment outside Boston and started working at a veterans services office. Nothing fancy, just helping people with paperwork, navigating housing options, trying to keep them off the streets. It gave me purpose. Not once did anyone from my family ask me about it. My mother, Karen, told others I was getting back on my feet, as if I had stumbled. My father, Doug, tried connecting, but often said the wrong things. "Marina is doing great," he would mention in every conversation, as if her success was a path I had refused to follow. And then there was Marina herself. We used to be close. As children, we played together constantly. She was wild and dramatic. I was quieter. She confided in me, and I guarded her secrets. That changed as we got older. Somewhere between middle school and prom, I became someone she merely tolerated. She found popularity. I found solitude. She gravitated toward the spotlight while I faded into the background. By the time I left for basic training, she barely acknowledged me at family gatherings. She called it Emily's phase. The last time, we shared a room before the wedding was at my grandfather's funeral. She spent more time discussing catering than the man in the casket. So when Jace asked me to the rehearsal dinner, I hesitated. He was my only sibling, the only one who didn't treat me like a stranger in my own family. He looked up to me as a child. I felt I owed him at least one night. The dinner was at a lakeside venue about an hour from our hometown. White lights wrapped around the trees, glass lanterns floated on the water, tables arranged in perfect symmetry with centerpieces. That likely cost more than my rent. I arrived in a simple, pressed black dress. Modest. I kept my hair down and went without makeup. I didn't want to draw attention, just wanted to be present enough to say I came. Inside, Marina looked like a magazine cover. Hair curled into waves, lips painted deep red, a diamond that demanded attention even when her hand was still. She was flanked by bridesmaids in dusty pink, and Todd, her fiancé, stood beside her like a proud accessory. When she spotted me, her smile shifted. Not wide, not warm, just enough to ensure the photographer wouldn't capture anything amiss. She approached, hugged me as if we were friends. "Emily, wow, I can't believe you came. I told everyone you were too busy climbing mountains or, I don't know, fixing tanks." "I work at a veteran center," I said. She blinked as if I spoke a foreign language. "Oh, that's nice." She turned to introduce me to Todd. He shook my hand and offered the same smile reserved for waitstaff and Uber drivers, friendly yet hollow. I took a seat at the table near my parents. My mother greeted me with, "You look tired, dear." My father nodded firmly, then began discussing property taxes with the man next to him. I sat beside Jace, who leaned over and whispered, "You're doing great. Just breathe through it." I didn't want to be there, but I was. I thought perhaps that would suffice. I hadn't yet realized that night would be the last time my family saw Marina as she had been, and the first time they noticed me at all. Dinner began like every other family gathering, polished on the surface but tense underneath. Servers glided between tables with trays of wine and hors d'oeuvres. Marina's laughter was too loud as she shared stories with her friends. Todd stood close, nodding along, even when he wasn't listening. I sat between Jace and a cousin I hadn't seen since middle school, who spoke about stock trading. I nodded, politely, but my gaze kept returning to Marina. She was performing as usual, making everything about her appear effortless. People leaned in when she spoke, laughed harder than necessary, and smiled too long after the jokes. When the speeches commenced, her father, my Uncle Henry, stood first. He welcomed Todd's family with a quip about surviving the bridezilla, phase, and toasted to the couple's future. Laughter erupted, and glasses clinked. Then Marina's maid of honor spoke, followed by one of Todd's brothers, sweet, predictable, and dull. Then Marina rose. She didn't wait for applause or attention. She already had it. She held her glass with perfect posture and surveyed the room like a queen addressing her court. I want to thank everyone here who's been part of our lives, especially those who have shown us what not to do. A few chuckles echoed. She turned her gaze toward me, locking eyes. "Every family has that one person, right?" she said, her tone light and playful. "The one who didn't quite get it together. The one who still hasn't figured out who they are. In our case, well, she's sitting right there." She pointed directly at me. Laughter erupted like a wave, light at first, then louder, growing. Because everyone feared being the one to remain silent. I froze. My cheeks flushed, not from embarrassment, but from restraint. I stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, breathing measured. Todd grinned, nodding along. "Every family needs one," he added with a chuckle. "Keeps things interesting." More laughter followed. My mother laughed too, high-pitched and awkward, as if trying to erase the discomfort. My father looked down at his napkin. Jace didn't laugh. He muttered something under his breath I didn't catch. My throat tightened, but I remained silent. I kept my focus on my water glass, watching the condensation bead and slide down the side. I had faced worse. I had walked through heat that could blister skin. I had slept with my boots on next to people who might not wake. Yet that night, in that perfectly decorated room, surrounded by relatives and strangers pretending to know me, I felt utterly alone. The laughter gradually faded. Marina continued with her speech, pretending the joke didn't matter, but it did. She meant it. She wanted everyone to laugh at me because it made her shine brighter. I contemplated getting up, walking out the front door, and never looking back. But something within me refused to let her win that easily. I stayed. A few minutes later, as dessert was being served, the back doors opened. Initially, no one noticed. The music resumed, and the sound of forks on cake plates filled the air. Then, a figure stepped inside. Tall, clean-cut, in full army dress uniform. His presence shifted the atmosphere. Even before he spoke, the way he walked silenced the crowd. One by one, heads turned. A few people whispered. The buzz faded. He advanced toward the front of the room with calm, deliberate steps, file under his arm. The heels of his polished shoes clicked against the wooden floor like a metronome. He stopped at the microphone. His voice was steady, formal, not loud, but commanding. Apologies for the interruption. Is the bride present? Marina rose. Yes, I'm Marina. I need to speak with you regarding your other marriage. The room fell into a silence so deep it felt physical. A vacuum. Todd turned slowly to her. What is he talking about? Marina didn't respond. Her lips parted, but no sound emerged. The officer didn't flinch. Miss Marina Vale, you are still legally married to Corporal James Ridley. That marriage has not been legally dissolved. We have documentation on file, and I am here to inform you of this as part of a formal inquiry. People stared. Todd's parents, Babis Mendius and Yep, began whispering. My mother covered her mouth, while my father sat frozen, eyes wide. Marina's expression cracked. The mask slipped. She looked around like she was searching for a line, an exit, a way to explain herself. But the damage was done. I looked down at my plate. Untouched dessert before me. My stomach felt hollow and hard. She had attempted to humiliate me, to put me in my place, and now her perfect world was unraveling before everyone. The room had fallen into complete silence, the kind you never forget. Not the lull of awkwardness, but a silence that consumes. People exchanged glances, but no one knew what to say. The officer's words hung in the air. Marina remained at the head table, looking like a statue. Fingers clenched around the edge of her chair, her chest rising and falling quickly. Yet she remained speechless. Todd stared at her as if she were a stranger. His parents looked embarrassed. Maybe angry, maybe both. One of the bridesmaids whispered something, prompting another to cover her mouth. I remained still. For once, I wasn't under the microscope. I had nothing to explain. I had come quietly, eaten my meal, stayed in my seat. I had shown up, and that was it. Suddenly, that was more than enough. The officer handed Marina a manila envelope. This is a copy of the marriage certificate, he said. You signed it 2 years ago in El Paso County. Until this is formally resolved, you are legally married under federal records. This creates potential legal implications for your current ceremony. Marina accepted the folder with a trembling hand, but said nothing. She couldn't look at anyone. Her lips pressed tightly, tears welling up that she fought to hold back. Todd finally spoke. Is this true? She still didn't answer. I asked you a question, he said, voice raised. Is this true, Marina? I forgot, she mumbled. You forgot? You were married? It wasn't real, she said, her voice cracking. It was for insurance. He was deploying. We never lived together. It didn't mean anything. Todd said nothing initially. He just stared at the floor. Then he turned and walked away from the table, past the guests, past the photographer who had stopped taking pictures. He didn't slam the door. He simply vanished through it. Marina stood alone. The officer gave a polite nod and exited as he had come. Once he was gone, people began to stir, whispering, looking around, standing to clear their plates or take awkward trips to the bar. I remained seated for a long time. Then I caught Jace's eye. You okay? He asked quietly. Fine, I replied. You didn't know about this? I shook my head. I wouldn't have kept it to myself if I had. He nodded, still watching Marina. Guess she finally outdid herself. I could have stood up then. I could have said something, asked if anyone still thought I was the family failure, if this counted, as one of Marina's flawless life choices. But I didn't. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't need to gloat. The truth had landed all on its own. I didn't have to do a thing. Instead, I slowly stood up, pulled my jacket over my shoulders, and glanced at the door. Then I turned to my mom. She looked stunned, still sitting with a half-full glass of wine in hand. "I'm heading out," I announced. She blinked, looking up at me. "Emily, are you okay?" "I'm fine," I replied. My dad stood as well. "You don't want dessert?" "No," I turned to Jace. "You staying for a minute? Want me to drive you home?" "I've got my car. Text me when you get back," he said, giving me a quick hug. As I walked past the head table, Marina sat slumped in her chair staring at the papers in her hand. No one spoke to her. For once, she wasn't the center of attention. She was just another person dealing with the consequences of her choices. And for the first time in years, I wasn't the one they whispered about. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't someone's punchline. I was just a woman who had served, come home, and retained her integrity. A woman who had survived more than anyone in that room could ever understand. I didn't slam the door either. I walked out quietly, calm, steady, and unbothered. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had nothing left to prove. I walked to my car under a dark sky, flickering with cold stars. The wind from the lake was sharp, biting at my arms as I unlocked the door and slid into the driver's seat. I sat there, hands on the wheel, breathing deeply. I wasn't angry. I wasn't surprised. I was filled with something I hadn't felt. In a long time, not joy, not revenge, just clarity. Inside that glowing venue, my cousin's perfect world had shattered. She had mocked me in front of our entire family. And 5 minutes later, her own secret was revealed in a way she couldn't spin or excuse. But this wasn't about karma or justice. It was about a shift I felt within myself. A line finally drawn. A burden finally lifted. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. It was Jace. "You good?" "Yeah, you?" Marina left crying. Todd's gone. Everyone's pretending like nothing happened. I smiled to myself, a bitter but quiet smile. That sounded like our family. Sweep the mess under the rug and keep smiling for the photo. Go home. You don't owe them anything. I started the car and pulled onto the road, headlights cutting through the trees. As I drove, I reflected on everything that had led to that night. The years of being told I was less, the looks, the jokes, the way my parents never defended me, and how Marina never missed a chance to turn me into a symbol of failure to elevate herself. Yet, I had never tried to upstage her. I had never exposed her secrets or stooped to her level. I had simply kept moving forward, living my life with quiet dignity, even when no one noticed. The next morning, I received a call from my dad. I didn't answer. Then he texted, "Can we talk?" I waited a few hours before returning his call. His voice was weary. He asked if I was okay and if I had heard what happened. I told him I was there for all of it. "She didn't mean it," he said. "Yes, she did," I countered. "She always has." He fell silent. After a moment, he sighed. "I'm sorry you were dragged into it." I wasn't dragged into it, I was targeted. Another pause. Longer this time. "I know you felt outside the family for a while," he said. "That's our fault. We didn't understand what you needed. You didn't try to. You're right." He didn't attempt to defend himself after that, didn't try to explain her behavior or mine. He didn't even ask for forgiveness. He simply expressed hope that I would still come to the wedding, which was clearly canceled at that point. "I hope she's okay," I said, and I truly meant it. I didn't harbor any hatred for Marina. I pitied her. Her entire life revolved around performance and controlling the narrative. She had spent so long trying to appear perfect that she forgot to be honest. A week later, I received a handwritten letter in the mail. There was no return address, but the handwriting was familiar. "Emily, I don't know what to say except that you didn't deserve what I did. I made a joke at your expense because I thought that's what people expected of me. I was insecure and selfish. You didn't do anything wrong. You just showed up and reminded me what real strength looks like. "I'm sorry, Marina." I didn't respond. Some apologies don't require a reply. Sometimes the silence that follows is sufficient. Instead, I pinned the letter to my fridge with a magnet shaped like a dog tag, a reminder not of the pain, but of the truth finally coming to light. A month later, I was invited to speak at a local veterans panel. I shared with a room full of strangers that you don't always get the family you deserve. Sometimes, you're given one that teaches you who you are by continually misunderstanding you. After the event, a woman approached me, her eyes glistening with tears. She said, "Thank you. My daughter's in the Army. I never knew how to talk to her without making her feel small. I think I've been doing it wrong." I shook her hand. It's not too late to do it right. As I walked away that night, I realized I had never been the failure. I had been a scapegoat for their insecurities. I had built my life with my own hands, carrying my silence like armor, not shame. For the first time, I finally saw myself the way I deserved to be seen. 2 months passed before I saw any of them again. Marina's wedding was officially off. There were no grand announcements or explanations sent to guests, just silence. Her social media accounts went dark, and her bridal website was taken down. As far as the family was concerned, it became another topic we weren't supposed to discuss, something they hoped would fade from memory. But I didn't forget. Not out of a desire for revenge, nor because I held a grudge. I remembered because, at last, something had cracked wide open, and everyone had to face the truth. The next family gathering was my father's birthday. The crowd was smaller, fewer distractions, no champagne toasts. I debated whether to attend, but this time, I didn't feel like I was walking into enemy territory. I felt different, equal. When I entered, my mother greeted me with a quiet smile. There were no backhanded comments about my outfit or subtle jabs about my life choices, just a genuine, almost cautious hello. Marina wasn't present. I sat beside. Jason listened as the conversation flowed around us. For once, people didn't speak over me. They asked real questions about my job, what it had been like coming home, and what I wanted to do next. I answered honestly, refusing to make myself smaller to make them comfortable. After dinner, my dad pulled me aside in the kitchen. Leaning against the counter with his arms crossed, he looked at me, not like a parent trying to fix things, but like a man finally seeing his daughter clearly. "We've been thinking a lot about that night," he said. "I have too," I replied. I didn't stand up for you. I should have all those years. I let it slide because I thought it would pass. I thought it was harmless. It wasn't, I stated, but I survived it. And I'm not waiting for anyone to tell me I turned out okay. He nodded, tears welling in his eyes. You did more than okay. That acknowledgement was all I needed. Not because it fixed everything, but because it affirmed that I no longer had to fight to be seen. He had finally opened his eyes. I never saw Marina again in person. I heard she moved in with a friend downstate and started working as a freelance event planner. The family didn't offer much information, and I didn't ask. Her story wasn't mine to chase. However, I often think back to that night, the echoing laughter when she called me a failure, and the silence that followed when her lie was unveiled. Not because I wanted to relive that moment, but because it served as a powerful reminder. There are individuals who will do everything in their power to define you by your lowest moments, your hardest days, and your quietest times. They'll dissect you to feel more whole. If you allow them, they will write your story without your consent. But silence isn't weakness. Sometimes silence is strength. Sometimes it's the loudest thing in the room. That night, I didn't defend myself. I didn't retaliate. I didn't need to. The truth stood up for me. People often say blood is thicker than water, but they forget the full saying, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It means the family you choose, those who stand by you, are sometimes more significant than those you are born into. My family didn't know how to handle me because I didn't fit their mold, but I ceased to seek their approval, instead building a life based on service, integrity, and resilience. In the end, I didn't have to change who I was to be worthy. I simply had to stop shrinking for those who couldn't see me. Now, when I enter a room, I don't hope for their respect. I expect it. And when someone calls me a failure, I smile because I know better. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or silenced, I hope it serves as a reminder that your worth isn't defined by how others perceive you. It's determined by how you carry yourself when no one is applauding. You don't owe a demonstration of your value to those who refuse to recognize it. Stand tall regardless. Quiet strength speaks the loudest when the world expects you to remain small. If you found this story impactful, please give the video a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been the black sheep in your own family? I read every comment, and if you want more real stories about truth, resilience, and redemption, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you never miss one. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay grounded, and write your own story.